There's something called direct admits, which is basically they don't check your holistic application. If you have like 36 IB points, you're above 36 IB points, you meet that November 1st deadline.
Early action deadline.
Early action deadline, direct admit. Like you are in. And they gave me like a $40,000 scholarship along with it.
Hi Shaarven.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How have you been?
I'm good, thank you. Enjoying summer.
Yes, I can imagine the whole exhaustive last 12 odd months, 8 to 12 odd months.
I would say so, yes.
Awesome. Okay, Shaarven, for our audience, please go ahead, introduce yourself.
I'm Sharveen. I recently finished my 12th grade or graduated high school, and I have been studying at Mahindra International School, Pune for the past 4 years. I applied to US, and that was my main purpose or country I wanted to visit and study. I was US, and I applied to about 14 schools, and I received offers from ASU, Indiana Bloomington, Kelley School of Business, Indiana Bloomington. But my two choices were that like my dream schools were University of Southern California and Babson College, which I got into, and now I have chosen that I'll study at Babson College.
That's great. So,
Thank you.
Shaarven, which specific major are you planning to study at Babson?
I'm planning to study entrepreneurship and then maybe do a minor in finance.
That's awesome. Babson is known for its entrepreneurship program.
It is.
That's what our aim was, right?
Yes, that's where we started about 15 months ago.
15 months ago. 15
Yeah.
months ago. That's been quite a ride.
It has been from submitting the application to getting deferred to finally getting the acceptance letter. It's been a whole roller coaster ride.
Awesome. So let's talk about this roller coaster ride.
Yes.
Please elaborate. So consider our audience to be naive in this field. So mostly
Okay.
we are talking about students who are currently in high school,
Right.
as well as their parents, right? What would you give them an entire trajectory of how things evolved, developed, the way you worked on your activities, how much you've worked at Mahindra
Right.
to get into Babson, right?
Okay, so let me just give some context. I joined Mahindra, like I said, in 9th grade, or which is called MIP4 in the IB terminologies. But before that, I have experienced CBSE curriculum, ICSE curriculum, and even IGCSE curriculum. You would say that I didn't fit in a lot in this, and I finally settled for IB. And starting 9th grade, I started in COVID. So coming to IB was a complete, disastrous experience for me because I couldn't meet my teachers in person, everything was online. And I like to make friends. I'm a very social person. So making friends was never an issue for me before. But during online school, I was struggling a lot and it was taking a toll on me. It's like, okay, I don't know how this IB thing works. College applications, everyone says, okay, since now you're in high school, you need to start working on your college applications, start building your profile. But I was like, okay, I don't even have friends. I don't know what IB is. I don't understand what's happening in half of my classes. So moving forward from there, 9th grade, I was just, trying to figure out what IB was. I didn't do much in terms of extracurriculars or even academics. I was an average student in 9th grade. Coming to MIB 5 or 10th grade is when we got back on campus in person and learning started. Is when I started to, okay, I'm behind. I started interacting with my classmates. So they're like, oh, for the past year, we've been doing these coding classes because I want to, join computer science and I've been building this robot or this application. And I was overwhelmed. I was like, okay, these guys seem smart. They're way ahead. And here I am trying to figure out what my maths class is like. Because in IB, maths you had different criterions. I was like, what is that coming from an ICSE school? I was very confused, and that overwhelming feeling is, I think what helped me is like, no, I need to pick up my pace, and that's how I started. I started by my first extracurricular activity was an automotive club that I started in school. I'm fascinated by cars, specifically engines. I love to build engines. Like if I see a broken engine, I think it's worth saving. I'll tear it apart, get new parts and build it up again.
That was in grade 10?
That was in grade 10. So that's how I started the club, and then I had these 6th graders, 7th graders join the club. So there's a whole experience teaching them and communicating them. And that's where my leadership role started. And I realized, okay, up until that point, I wanted to do automobile engineering, go to Germany. I was even taking German language lessons. But once I started this automotive club, I realized that, okay, I love teaching and I love leading people towards a goal. I have the qualities that, they were very rough and they were, in a very hazy state. But I was like, okay, I can build on these qualities. And I started taking initiatives in school. I applied as a candidate for the student council president, which is a very huge thing in my school. So my school is very small scale. We have about 350 students from grade 1 all the way to grade 12. So being the secondary student president is a huge thing because you bridge the communication between the school management and students. And since our school is so small, you know everyone and you need to campaign to get yourself known. It's not that, okay, you campaign in your grade and you'll win the elections.
Right.
You have to campaign across. So I had to go interact with students from all the way from grade 6 to grade 12. Yeah. And that's what I spent most of my 10th grade doing. Automotive club, getting to know the school problems and students. And then I ended up winning the elections.
Congratulations. Yes.
Thank you.
That was a big deal for us, right?
Yes, it was. And I remember I called you and I was like, sir, finally got the elections. And they announced it on the last day of 10th grade and I was super pumped. And in terms of academics, by the end of MIP 5, I got the academic honor roll. I was in one of the top students in my class. And after the MIP results were declared, I was the first in my school. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I scored something 52 on 56 MIP points, and which in my school was the highest. And so basically, looking at what happened to me in these 2 years from MIP 4 to MIP 5, is I think that overwhelming feeling was the kick that I got. It's like, okay, or you might say a slap on your face, like wake up, it's high time.
Blessing in disguise in a way?
Blessing in disguise. I'm thankful for that overwhelming feeling, that stress that you feel. I remember I was like, I couldn't figure one assignment out and I went yelling at my dad. He's like, there's no point of you being stressed. If you think this is not for you, we'll move you again. But don't take stress, don't yell at others, don't project your management issues on others. And him saying that, I think, was really affected me. In the moment I was like, okay, why is he not supporting me? But now that I have hindsight and look back, what he said was really important. I was like, okay, now I need to manage myself. Yelling at others is not it. I need to pick up myself. And I recently had read Steve Jobs' book, his biography. And in that he said, there was something he mentioned along the lines is that I was successful because I knew the right questions to ask to the right people. And even knowing the questions, I asked them, even if they weren't the right people. And I got the answers to them. And that's how he succeeded. And I was like, okay, I don't understand this, so I need to ask someone. And I started asking, like if there was a math problem, like I was studying science and in that there was some math related stuff because I was studying physics. And in physics, you have a lot of math. It's very math heavy. And I wasn't understanding. So I asked the doubt to my physics teacher and she guided me to my math teacher. So I was like, okay, even if I'm asking the wrong person will guide me eventually towards the right person. And I just went on asking and I asked the stupidest doubts. It's like, why is this like that? And what happens to us is we as students get lazy at times. We're like, okay, I want to ask in class. I don't want to stay back after class. I don't want to book office hours or come back whenever the teacher is free. I don't want to take that extra effort. I think I pushed myself to take extra effort because when the teacher said, okay, your doubt seems very specific. It's not what we are addressing with the class. Come back after the class, That's a very common teacher response. But we as students is like, okay, yeah, teacher doesn't want to explain. I don't want to go later. So that's something I, persevered through. I went to the teacher after office hours and I'm very thankful to my teachers. They helped me a lot. I mean, I would say I was very lucky throughout high school to have best teachers who have supported me in times where I felt like, okay, this is it. I give up. And they're like, no, just push a bit more. So I think that's a crucial role. And we feel like, okay, we don't have the best teachers. Teachers are amazing. You just have to tune yourself a bit to them. Because like, okay, yeah, this teacher's khadus when I talk to her. It's like, okay, go, just give a smile in the hallway. Eventually she'll come around.
True.
And that's how I, pulled myself and my grades up. And I would say my college application journey began in 11th grade. It was when I was the student council president. I was also leading the automotive club, something I didn't want to drop, something I didn't drop until my exam started in 12th grade, and done it throughout. And then along the way, I also picked up tutoring underprivileged children, which I think was very humbling to me, coming from a background where, any resources that are required or any equipment that I need for my education is readily available to me. Parents would say, okay, you think this would help you in your academics or help you improve yourself as a person? Here it is. Do you really need it, was their question. But looking at children who didn't even have books and pencils,
Fundamentals. True.
completely humbled me down. Because going to an international school, having a bus coming to pick me up at my doorstep, driving all the way, these are the things we take for granted, And looking at those kids is something that really humbled me and really helped me value the problems that are there out in the real world. And not just in the real world, even in my school. It's like what we might consider problems are not problems to anyone else, they're luxuries. Oh my God, my mechanical pencil's not working, what a disaster. But to the people outside, like, these underprivileged kids who don't have these fundamentals, as you mentioned, for them, even like a half-broken snapped pencil is a luxury. So those kids really humbled me, and whenever I felt like, okay, no, I want to give up, teaching them made me realize these kids used to travel hour and a half, 2 hours to come to my school to learn from me. And I felt like I need to give my 110% when I teach them. I taught them math. Math's my favorite subject. And I felt like, okay, I need to teach them. And when I teach them, I need to give them my 110%. And there's always that one teacher, maybe in middle school, high school, or for some they find it in college, that, that there's one teacher who pushes you, motivates you when you feel like giving up. I wanted to be that teacher for them. And in that situation, I had to come up with like these creative ideas to teach them. I didn't want to be the boring teacher. No offense to my teachers who just write on the board. I wanted to come up with creative ways to teach them, shapes, alphabet, like numbers, how to add, subtract. And I wanted them to experience the luxury that I had. It was a dilemma that I faced. Okay, do I want to give these kids an exposure to technology when they don't have access to it, right? There are all these ethical questions come into play. Like, okay, will it hurt their feelings? Will they feel this sense of, inferiority? It's like, okay, this person has. These are all the things that you start thinking about. And I think that helped me mature as a person. You take these things for granted. It's like, okay, phone hai, smartphone hai, I'll play a game. But for them, even looking at a smartphone was like, oh wow. Like, their parents still use those keypad phones. And I was like, okay, do I want to give these kids exposure to such technology which we take for granted? And then, how much exposure do I want to give? All these questions and decisions really helped me improve my role as a leader. Right. And once I came into presidency power, I was like, okay, this is what I have learned in the past 2 years, leading the automotive club, teaching these students on the side. I need to now implement all these decision-making skills, management skills, problem identifying skills. That's something I would like to come to later. Is like we always emphasize problem-solving skills, but problem identifying skills I think comes before that and is more important. I'll talk about it later. But all these skills that I had, started to build on in the past 2 years, I wanted to bring that into my community. And since we are an international school, I think we have over 40 nationalities, even despite being a small school. And one thing that I realized is we say that, oh, internet has connected us, air travel has connected us. But we need to realize that we say, oh, I'm a citizen of India. But we need to start saying, I am a global citizen. Because what happens in US or in Turkey, Syria is going to impact what happens to me in my country because of the trade exports that have been going on. That's a large scale thing. But these are the things that I had to start thinking on. And then like some of the things I did as a president was a lot of fundraisers and a lot of social awareness campaigns. So the biggest one that we did was there was a Turkey-Syria earthquake that happened last year, 2023 February, and it really affected a lot of children. And since I was teaching these underprivileged students, I was like, okay, there are kids in Turkey, Syria who don't have means of education anymore. Their educational institutes have been collapsed, demolished by the earthquake. There's nothing for them. Like, I look forward to go to school because not just about the studying part, just hanging out with my friends, being in that environment, like, okay, I can relax in the break. Like, playing with my friends in lunch break is what I look forward to.
True.
But like, that feeling, I couldn't just imagine those 8, 9-year-olds. They don't have something like that to look forward to. They have to worry like, oh my God, like my house is demolished. Many of them lost their parents. We wanted to give them some hope by, helping them. And how can we help them from here in India, right? You would be surprised. There are so many NGOs and organizations working. It's a pool of them. And then again, the thought comes like, is this a scam or is not? But big ones like Red Cross, and like many of them, Red Cross is the one we worked with, WHO, PETA, even PTA, all of these institutions worked for this social cause. It's like, okay, we can contribute as well. So over a month, we had like fundraisers, we had bake sales. So we involved the primary as well because we wanted, them to get baked goods like cookies, cupcakes, small muffins, whatever that they could bake with their family and bring it to school. And we sold it because we used to run a tuck shop.
Right.
And we started generating revenue to send overseas so that they can, start with the education bit of these young students again. And then we had like these creative ideas. We had an art auction, which was personally my favorite. What we did was there's this army school in Pune. So their children did amazing artworks. And their artworks, we auctioned it in our school. Our school's a private international school. So we were able to raise a significant amount considering the artworks we sold. And it was amazing seeing like there is so much hidden talent and potential that's there, not just in our country, but even in outside the world as well. And these students didn't have the facilities, like the fundamentals. They didn't have paint, crayons or anything. We provided, some of them did, but most of them we provided it, and their art was just fabulous. And yeah, we did events like these and we raised funds, and then when we sent the funds over, then the year before I came into power presidency, one of our teachers was diagnosed with cancer. To help her, spread awareness about breast cancer, not just in our community. Going to school, we hear about it. Okay, there is one assembly or like one particular November is the month, cancer awareness. And you see like, okay, cancer awareness month, okay. The rest of the year, you forget it. Like, that one particular month, everyone's like, yay, we show my full support. We didn't want that thing to happen. We wanted it to be a year-long thing, which I would say we weren't really successful in, but we started the wheels rolling. So it happened before, like the campaigning started a year before I joined as president, and we continue it through. We had like buyout games where we got permission from the principal and the school management is like, let children bunk classes by paying the teacher out. He's like, okay, I'm going to bunk the class. Here's my bunking fee. And we send that money to the organization of where the teacher was receiving her cancer treatments. So these are some of the things that I've done. And in sports as well, I joined the volleyball team because two of my favorite seniors, like my senior best friends, everyone has that one particular senior in school who guides them through. Those seniors were on the volleyball team and I really wanted to be with them. So I joined the volleyball team, and then in 12th grade, I got the vice captaincy of the team. So I was again in a leadership position. And all these over the past 4 years, I think, especially when you go to US, when you apply to US, you hear this word a lot. Your application must be holistic. Like, you should do sports, extracurricular, social work, not just academics. But I was like, okay, I can play volleyball, I can do this, but what is one common thread that ties down to me? It's like, okay, I'm playing volleyball, I'm doing social service, I'm teaching underprivileged kids, I'm planting trees on a hill, revegetating a hill. But what is the common knot that ties all of this to me? And I think for me was leadership.
So, Sharveen, please talk more about your application process.
Yes. So since I was applying to the US and all the universities that I had shortlisted were on Common App, so I was like, okay, one common portal to submit all applications. But moving slightly behind to the application season is like shortlisting universities. That is something, I was like, okay, there's 4,000 universities just in US alone. I want to go to the best university. Everyone wants to go to the best university. But, one thing I realized is, okay, how do I know this is like, rank number 1, rank number 2? Because I'm a very curious child. I ask why is this like this? Why is this university first? What is the criteria of it? Mala खूप प्रश्न I ask a lot. So my first question was, okay, why is Princeton or UPenn or Wharton School of Business number 1 for business? I started reading articles on it. It's like, okay, Wharton has like 14 billionaires, Harvard has 12. Don't count me on the figures, but there's something in that ballpark. I was like, okay. I started looking into these billionaires, like, how many of them, were self-made, how many of them came from like, business backgrounds, and like, because all of the billionaires like either had tech companies or big business companies. And I was like, okay. During that research, I found, okay, this university ranking is very biased. It's all a game of stats. And there have been instances where universities try to skew their data to rank themselves higher, because I think majority of the students, even where I found myself initially, is they open the website. I don't want to take, one particular institution's name. Common institutions, okay, go on their website. Like even search top 10 universities for business.
Absolutely. True.
First hit, you click the link, you see a Dropbox, like a list, okay, this. Initially you say, okay, I'm applying to 12 universities, 14 universities. These are the 14 universities I'm going to apply. I was like, okay, I have my list. I was like, back then I was debating US and UK, so I had LSE, Harvard, Wharton, Columbia Business School, all of these schools. And I was like, okay, I've been doing great. I stood first in my school. Definitely, all these IVs are going to want me. Who doesn't want me? I came first in my school. I've been doing my applications holistic. I'm doing sports, extracurricular, social service. I'm doing in my school community. But as the application season started, we're like, okay, just 14 of the top schools or like 10 of the top schools isn't going to cut it. We need, okay, dream schools. Some schools that are like, yeah, it's competitive, but I have an amazing chance.
Fair chance. Reach schools.
And there's like safety schools. It's like, if in case things go south, I have a backup. These schools are easy to get into, but they're not just like, just whatever. Absolutely. These schools. True. They're schools, good schools.
True.
So we started working on the list. List changed quite a lot. I remember you helping me with the process. Like, okay, this is, I think over the past 2.5 years up until that point, we were working together and you knew me pretty well. You knew me as a person and you'd be like, okay, I think this program would fit into you. Research about it. And then you would share links with me. I would find something, I would share it with you and we would have discussions. And we eventually settled on 14 final schools. And we had top schools as like, dream school had always been Babson. Along the way, USC came in, Marshall School of Business. And Princeton, Columbia and Wharton were like, okay, schools that if we get
up there, super dream schools. And
super dream schools.
We would definitely not miss the chance of applying.
Yeah, like, okay, whatever happens, happens. Don't want the regrets of never applying.
Absolutely.
Even if my profile is not there, I remember you said, it's like, sometimes you just get lucky. Maybe competition is there, but they'll pick out one lucky applicant and that one lucky applicant just might be, so it's worth it, applying.
True.
And there are, fees are high of applying, $185 to $100. But I was lucky enough to have the facility to, think twice about it, but not thrice about it. So I would say I got lucky in that aspect, But looking at, like dream schools, we had Babson, we had USC, we had UNC Chapel Hill, Purdue was there.
You got into Purdue EA, right?
Yeah, I got into Purdue EA. Even Kelly Bloomington, Indiana Bloomington, Kelly School of Business was there. I got into EA. And during this research I found, you need to know the college's websites inside out. Because one thing I would like to share in terms of Kelly School of Business, I got their EA also. There's something called direct admits, which is basically they don't check your holistic application. It's purely based on your grades. And this is something I would have not known if I wasn't reading word by word, line by line of their website. Just briefly, is like if you have 36 IB points, you're above 36 IB points, you meet that November 1st deadline.
Early action deadline, direct admit. You are in. And they gave me a $40,000 scholarship along with it because I was way above 36 IB points. So I would say these small opportunities that are there, it's there on their website. The applications in the Common App. You have to fill out the Common App essay, and there are 5-6 prompts or 2-3 short essays that the university wants. That's not it. These tiny things, I feel like I might have missed something else out, but these tiny things are there on their websites that might give you an edge over the others. So spend a lot of time when you're researching. Just don't go to one website and you're like, okay, top 10 schools, this is what it is and this is where I want to go. You need to have research, why you want to go. Every single school I applied to resonated with me. There's one particular thing in this university is okay, leadership hai, there's international relations. I love diplomatic stuff. It's okay, even if the business program is not that great, international relations is something that I can move into. Like I said earlier, have a wiggle room. Absolutely.
So not just having top schools for business. I applied to ASU, a school that has a very high acceptance rate. Their Carey School of Business, W Carey School of Business, amazing programs if you want to get into international relations.
Absolutely, true.
And international business, amazing schools, and I think that's how you need to make your roster.
So the whole point which you're trying to make again is what I would like to underline here is. You use the word resonate.
Yes.
So it should be the right fit for you.
Yes.
Finding that fit is significantly important because you are going to spend 4 whole years of that's your conducive life, right? You really need to think twice before applying or thrice before applying. It should just be a statistical number, or is it something which you are really comfortable to spend 3 or 4 odd years of your life in that campus, right?
And coming from a business background, family background, money has been, I have been taught the value of money. It's okay, even a rupee you spend, do you really need to spend it? And what's the return on investment you're going to get? And especially applying to schools in US, you're going to be there for 4 years. If you go to a private university or even a public university as an Indian citizen, you end up paying tuition fees somewhere in the ballpark of a private university,
right?
Which is very expensive. So just because it's ranked higher and on their website they say the average salary after graduation is this, I would say don't look at that numbers. That is something I would recommend look at last.
True.
First, see what program you want to go to, what facilities they have for that program. And then think about, okay, after graduation, it is important, does the college have placements? What's their, average out, what companies pick students from these schools? These are important things, but I think what our mind gets driven into is okay, salary, what's my paycheck going to be at the end of the day? Paycheck, very important to survive in the US specifically. Very high standard, cost of living. But just because you're choosing a university for a paycheck, I would say, I would recommend against that because
purely for paycheck won't make what's not the right choice.
Because you're going to be stuck in that rabbit hole. It's okay, paycheck is there, but you're not going to want to work because it doesn't interest you, or you're going to get that overwhelming feeling when times are tough. It's too many things happening. It's I just want to give up. Is money really worth it? And that's very situational, like what is your current situation, how many people are dependent on you. That's very individual perspective. But in times you'll find yourself asking, I'm doing this for the money, is money worth it?
Very wise point. Sharveen, could you please guide our audience on the whole aspect of what they should be looking at or how they should be preparing themselves, specifically students,
Right.
before they apply? So, what are those 3 things you feel are way more important apart from academics, which they should spend or invest their time on?
I think one of the most important things that you need to do, like, before starting your application process, is sit down in a room, no distractions, take out a notebook, a pen, don't take out your phone, no iPad or any digital, just a plain sheet of paper and pen. Write the question, who am I? And once you start, is like, okay, start simple. I start is like, okay, I am a son, I am a brother, these are my qualities, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is who I think I am right now, this is who I want to be in the future, this is what I want to fulfill, this is like such things, statements. And I pondered for a good 2 hours, I think, because I went, I was in such a deep thought. It's like, okay, and that's when I realized that, okay, I am a leader. I didn't know up until that point. I was fortunate enough, like, okay, I was thinking I need to do leadership things because I've been enjoying it. But it wasn't up until that moment that I realized, like, I had a complete and a clear vision that, yes, I am a leader and I want to pursue something in leadership. I want to do something in entrepreneurship. I like taking, being in charge and, taking responsibility. But up until that moment, I wasn't like 100% sure. I was like, okay, I'm a social person. I used to think I like to talk to people. I like organizing things, delegating work. That's what I thought it was just because of my interest. But I realized that as an individual, I am a leader. That's what came down, and that's how I tied my application to. And once I realized, okay, this is who I am, the next step I did was I asked people around me. It's like, okay, if you were to rely on me in a particular situation, what would be that reason you would be like, okay, I need Sharveen for this? Like, what would be your reason to text me or to call me if you were facing some challenge or some problem? What kind of situations do you think you would call me in? And I spoke to my friends about it, and then, like, what do you think? Define me in a word. Basic things. And that's when I started to realize, is like, okay, my friends would rely me on, when they have to make a key decision and they're not sure, they would ask me for advice because they know I would give them a very unbiased advice, and as a third perspective, I wouldn't be like, okay, this is what you like, just do this. I would have a deep conversation with them, talk to them about it. And after realizing that, I was like, okay, I have the skills to make decisions and not just, be indecisive. So that's another thing that, I did after I realized who I am. And I was like, okay, these are the 7 common app prompts. This is what I want to showcase myself. I've always been that person, let your actions speak louder than words. And you pushed me towards, you're like, okay, Sharveen, you need to speak up about yourself. Yeah. You're keeping it inside. Like you told me, like, okay, I have seen you work for the past 2.5 years. That's why I know what you have done, what you're capable of. But the person who's going to be reading your application, that person knows you for that 750 words, 650 words. That's all that person knows about you. And like some other tiny bit of essay. So you need to cover up your entire personality in 650 words. And you can't just start listing down things. And that's something I struggled with a lot. It's like, okay, I have done so much. I don't want to sell it because I don't want to sound like I'm boasting myself, or because I felt a bit, okay, this is not right. But you convinced me, okay, this is where it is right to sell yourself and to explain what you have done, why you have done. And I think that's how we started with our application process. And yeah, I think that was the initial bit.
Fair. So it would have been a serious injustice to your application when you are not. I'm not asking you to yell it out loud,
Yeah.
but at least go out there and tell the university what you have done.
Yeah.
Right? There are so many things like you've taken lessons for you have taken pilot lessons.
Yes, I have.
You went to summer school. There are so many things, specifically responsibilities which you have, personal family responsibilities which you have taken
Yes.
at such a tiny age. It's so important for you to showcase your maturity.
Right.
Not blow it up, but at least show what you've done.
Yeah.
Fair. Sharveen, now that we know that you are getting in Babson,
Yes.
and it's a drum roll has already started. Absolutely. So, what exactly are you looking forward to? What are your goals like?
So my biggest goal is, I think before we started this, podcast, I was just talking to you. I've been reading a lot of books. I do a lot of reading, and one of the common traits or underlying message that I've found in a lot of books that talk about how to be a good leader or what being a leader means is that you have the ability to identify the untapped potential or the traits or qualities that a person has, and how you have to, as a leader, you have to bring it outside and implement it in your common vision or goal. That's what being a leader in essence is. Yes, it is about delegating tasks, making key decisions, but you have to walk with your team. You can't just be like, this is your deadline, you have to meet this, you need to get this done. Yeah, that's absolutely there. It's an essential part, but knowing what to delegate to which person, that's where I think the leader's key, role comes in. And yeah, I think that's something I want to experience at Babson, because coming from a small school, yes, I had the chance to, meet with a lot of people, like interact on a close-knit scale. I want to amp up that scale now, meet with a lot of people and take up leadership responsibilities and understand, okay, this person can do this. How can that person help me in my problem or my situation? Use variety of skills to solve a common issue. So, and that I think will come through networking, putting yourself out there. I think you've really helped me and opened my eyes. It's like, okay, there is a way that you can sell yourself without sounding, like boasting about yourself. There's a subtle way to do it where you make people realize, okay, this person has these skills, which is, I think, something I've really appreciate and a great insight that I've learned from you. Is like, you need to sell yourself, but you need to do it in such a way that the other person realizes, okay, this person possesses the skills, and
without actually boasting about it.
Yeah.
Shaarven, undoubtedly, networking is that super underrated quality.
Yeah.
And specifically, when you're getting into a great school like Babson, you would need to exploit, or rather explore that trait as much as possible, because networking is the key, irrespective.
Absolutely. I think one of the reasons I think I spoke about earlier when I was talking about my 10th grade was I asked teachers, and I think that's what networking is. You just ask people, you find people, and you maintain those relationships and connections. It takes like 10 minutes to message someone. It's like, hey, how are you doing? Checking up on them. Like, there is a saying in Marathi, it's like kama purti mama. Don't be that person. Essentially what it means that you only interact with a person just because they need to work with you.
True.
I think that's not what networking is about. Networking is about building relationship
Genuine.
and connections. Yes. And I think to do that you have to be yourself and speak about your problems. I think a lot of times we say like, okay, I don't want another person to know about my problems, like whatever these problems might be. Yeah, there are certain problems that you don't want to share, like maybe personal problems, but problems that you face in your community or in your company. Like I have seen, like, okay, I was facing some problems in my student council, and I was like, okay, I need to address these. I took up to the teachers. As a leader, I felt, embarrassed or guilty. It's like, okay, it's fault at my part. It's like, okay, there are some issues in my company, but I had to put myself out there, talk to my teachers, like, okay, I'm facing problems. Can you help me sort it out?
True.
And once you put yourself out there and you're like, okay, I'm perfect. No, I have flaws as well. That's when you start building these connections and people see you as a human and not as a perfect persona, And building these networkings, like I said, I think I digressed a bit. Sorry for that, but I was talking about like teachers, right? That's what networking is about, finding the right people and building those relationships and making sure they're lifelong. Just shooting a text is like to check up on them and not being a Kamapurti Mama person.
Yes. Fair enough. Awesome, Sharveen. This has been great. I'm so happy to see that change in you. Since we probably met for the first time, I've seen a great profile with a kid who was too introvert.
Yeah.
Not comfortable to talk. You felt that if I'm talking about the things which you've achieved, it's like boasting.
Yeah.
And
I did.
From there, you're here. Red carpet for Babson, and I'm so much happy for you. We all at Anantt are wishing you all the best wishes for all your future endeavors, man.
Thank you.
Looking forward. All the best wishes, buddy.
Thank you.
Please take care. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All the best.